Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.2.2, in which I am attempting to make Kerbals a multiplanetary species. We have here Carrie and Daisy Kerman piloting our warp skiff on our first trip outside of the bounds of normal physics, I suppose, heading out to Eeloo. So let's fire up this warp drive, for real this time. So, exotic matter is off. We'll talk about what that means in a moment, but we have a little bit of clearance before we get to the fail-safe value of the Alcubierre drive, but we are pointed directly at our target, which is Eeloo. And let's get moving. So we turn up the velocity, and this thing just translates us straight through space at 500,000 meters per second. We can see the moon sliding away, Kerbin moving away at incredible velocities. All right, so let's start increasing our speed. We are at 1% the speed of light. I find that it's best to be very, very careful about how fast you go and how you use this, because it's so easy to go just hurtling past your intended destination. All right, 3.5 million meters per second, and we are just translating through space. Where is Eeloo? There it is. All right, so we're gonna need to go even faster. 2%, 3% C. Oop, 100 and... Yeah, there's a little bit of a jump here, you'll notice. Just the tiniest bit of throttle goes from 10 million meters per second up to 200 million meters per second at 67% C. So we are now moving at a reasonable fraction of the speed of light. 167, 3 times the speed of light. And then our orbit just moves just dramatically. So as you can see, we are retaining our velocity, but our position changes, which makes the orbital parameters change pretty dramatically with it. A little bit faster, a little bit faster. We are now moving at 10 times the speed of light, and we're still not even at half throttle. And we are approaching Eeloo. We are getting pretty close now. If you're keeping track, it's been minutes since we left Kerbin. And slow it on down. And there you go. See, in one little time skip, we made it to the edge of the system, basically. All right, so let's point ourselves inwards. Yes, we did lose that. That's fine. Oh, look, we kept the booster. Huzzah. Saving 25,000 funds doesn't mean as much as it used to, we'll say. All right, so we're going to point ourselves directly at Eeloo, and we are going to warp slowly back in towards the body. So we are moving really quite fast, and there are a couple different ways for us to shed velocity. And look at that, we are now in front of Eeloo, but we are hurtling past at about 10,000 meters per second. And our warp drive is shut off because we are too close to the body, but that's fine. We are not in a dangerous situation at all, so I'm not terribly worried about that. So we could slow ourselves down, or we could try different ways of shedding velocity for free, basically by using gravity and the fact that the warp drive is just unbelievable. So let's try to play with that just a little bit, just to see how that works. We are screaming through Eeloo Sphere of Influence at 10,800 meters per second. Let's see if we can't get that down a little bit just for free. Alright, so I'm putting this rendezvous with different bodies up here, the engineer rendezvous window up, just because I'm going to be flipping around quite a bit. And we should be outside of the fail-safe range. Yes, we are. Let's activate our engine. Oops. Oh, dang it. Now I got it all discombobulated. Alright, hold on. Shut down engine. Yeah, I have a hotkey to switch engines, basically, but... Okay, so let's go to Jool. Because I want to fall in towards something that has a lot of gravity. So let's just turn up the warp drive. And we are approaching. This is just ridiculous. Like, I can't even think of anything interesting to say about that because this is just, it's just incredible just bouncing around the Kerbal system this way. Alright, so there are a couple maneuvers that I've read up on as far as how to manipulate your velocity without actually spending any fuel. So what I'm doing right now is I'm lining us up directly with Jool so that our prograde vector is leaving the system in a straight line out from Jool itself, and we're doing that by just following in the radial in direction until it just about lines up with the horizon and then flips around. There we go. Now I can point myself directly along my retrograde vector, which should be straight down, and I can warp directly towards Jool. Ooh, careful. See, this is what I'm talking about. You got to be super careful with the warp throttle. All right, just ease it on up. Ease it up. There we go. All right, so now our warp drive is carrying us in towards Jool at a sedate 3% of the speed of light. A little bit faster. See, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, but we've come in a little bit too close. That's fine. But we are flying straight away, and you'll notice that our velocity is decreasing. And part of that is just because we are increasing our elevation, our altitude over the surface. But part of that is Jool's gravity is literally just pulling us straight down. So what we can do at this point is, first of all, we want to make sure that we are lined up just right. And also want to make sure that we have, well, we're going to have the time warp out of the closest, the failsafe range. So we're warping out to 9,000 kilometers. There we go. Let's flip on our warp drive once again. And we're going to once again follow the, oops, I guess that's a little too close. Okay, let's get a little bit further away. Okay. Activate engine. And we're just going to follow this until the radial is on the horizon. Flips around. And that means we are moving in a very straight line from the center of mass of Jool straight out. And we get the maximum benefit of Jool's gravity. So what you can do is, I'm going just under 7,000 meters per second. So I can actually, by a combination of messing with my thrust limiter and the throttle, I can get something pretty darn close. 6990. Okay, 6913, that's fine. So now the warp drive is keeping us in the same place. I think so anyways. We should be, yeah, we should be staying just about still. Our altitude is holding just about steady. We are decreasing in our altitude just slightly, but we can hold this position while Jool is pulling us in. So we are pushing ourselves, using the warp drive to translate in along our velocity vector, even as our conserved velocity pulls us out. That keeps us in the same place while Jool's gravity basically siphons off additional velocity. So we can just F5 and I can just time warp for a bit and just let this happen. And you see our orbit velocity, even though we are maintaining the same altitude, is dropping. So you can actually lose some velocity this way, but it does take, you know, real time to actually do this rather than just burning fuel. And we have the delta V to make this burn around Eeloo even without doing what I'm doing now, but this is kind of just a demonstration of some of the most basic warp maneuvers that are there. So I'm going to drop some velocity and then we will carry on. Okay, so I've been time warping for a little while, and we've dropped about 750 or so meters per second of delta V off of our orbit relative to Jool. So let's go ahead and stop the warp drive, turn the thrust limiter back up, and I could have just done this until I have the exact speed that I want, but that sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of me sitting here waiting for this to be done. So, I packed a carbureted fusion engine for a reason, so let's use that. So let's point ourselves back at Eeloo. And just like that, we are going to head back out to the furthest planet at a significant fraction of the speed of light. And there we are, cruising the immeasurable distance between these two planets. Well, the distance is not immeasurable, but it is very large. And we were able to cross it quickly and with ease using the Alcubierre drive, warping space around us. Alright, let's slow ourselves down as we approach. And let's just see how we did as far as getting a tighter orbit, or reducing our... Whoops, this flew right through. Reducing the amount of speed we have. So we dumped a little bit, so it seems like it's about a 1-to-1 ratio no matter where you lose it. So we are going to have to do a pretty significant burn to get ourselves into orbit, and that's fine. So we'll just go ahead and get that taken care of. Let's radial in, or actually I want to be on the other side, so let's just point this way. Alright, so we want to get to the far horizons is the idea here. So, let's see, what's the best way to do this? I need to be pointing downwards. Nope, not radial out, but radial in, please. Because I would like to be closer to on the elliptical with Eeloo, just to make it easier to rendezvous. Because we want to circularize into a nice low orbit and get what little effect of the Oberth, well, what little of the Oberth effect we can get. And we're going to push ourselves out in this direction, radial out now. And that should get us into what looks like a nice encounter. So, let's go ahead and switch our engines for the time being and see what we need to do to get into orbit. So at the periapsis, we're going to circularize, and that's going to be 8,437, which is a pretty decent chunk less. So basically, you can use that little trick of shedding velocity using gravity on whatever heavy body happens to be convenient to you. I like Jool because it seems to be the biggest, but yeah, it's that's an easy, free way to shed velocity. And what I'm planning on doing now, we're not going to hit anything, are we? Yep, we should be fine. I'm going to just burn for about a minute on either side of this this node here. And then I'm just going to warp back to the front of that periapsis once again, so that we get the best effect of our the delta V that we're using. Shedding that velocity, coming in close over Eeloo. Okay, so now that we have done that, let's go ahead and warp in this direction. Well, straight along the vector, really. A little bit this way. Okay. And... oh, too close. Too close. Gotta do it like this. There we go. Alright, so I perhaps should have realized that if I was going to need to shed 10,000 meters per second or so of delta V, maybe I should have packed a little bit more electricity. This thing can't quite make a 2-minute burn without running out of charge, but that's also not that big of a deal just because, you know, this thing can just warp back into position. So long as I don't put myself into a super dangerous orbit, it's really not a big deal. So anyways, we are now in a nice circular orbit, well, circular-ish orbit over Eeloo. So we are now using normal orbital mechanics for things. Huzzah, very exciting. So we are going to warp around until Far Horizons is back in the sun. I definitely don't want to land in the dark. So we'll just whip around a few times. And then we will commence with our landing right about here, I think. All right, so we are turning our orbit. This is not what I expected this to do, but that's probably fine. This will get us a good way closer to our target. And then just tweaking our orbit so that we come into a landing just beyond it. There we go. Although this is a fairly rapidly rotating planet, so I may need to actually push this out a bit. Alright, so let's save the game. And our warp drive is turned off just because we are moving in close. And let's go ahead and warp on down. What is my descending node pointing to? I thought that I was... Alright, that was very silly. Changing my inclination like that was very silly. I didn't actually think that through, but that was not what I intended to do as far as changing my inclination relative to the far horizons. For some reason I thought that the ascending and descending nodes would actually mean something, but obviously that is not the case. Okay, so looks like we are back on track. I still have 12,000 meters per second of relatively conventional space magic delta V, so I'm not terribly worried about getting to our target. Alright, so we are coming on down, moving pretty quickly here. We are still 70 or so kilometers away, and we are going to need to really scrape off some velocity here if we want this to not turn into an incredibly expensive splatter. So let's push ourselves in this direction. Oops, that's not actually going to go in the direction I want it to, so this way a little bit. Yeah, because we want to push ourselves up a little bit again so that we're flying directly over it. Alright, I'm correcting one more time, and now we should be coming down fairly close, perhaps. Nope, we're going to fall below it, so... There we go. Now we're falling straight towards it. Gosh darn it. Okay, here we go. Alright, putting down the landing gear as we make our final approach. We still have some pretty alarming lateral velocity, so we are going to have to cut that out here in a second. So I've pushed ourselves one last little bit upwards, and now I think we can just ride this straight down to a landing next to the Far Horizons. And we're coming down. Easy. Carefully. Alright, kill that velocity. Alright, now try to push ourselves a little bit towards it. Just using RCS. Point radial out so that we're straight up and down. Okay, let's come in and there we go. We are landed safely. All right, so now that we are here, we have gotten out here. I would just like to mention that the mission time is a little bit over 5 hours, 5 hours and 44 minutes. compared to 270 days. And this thing is cooking, so it is very good that we are here now to attach some radiators. So let's get Daisy Kerman out. Wow, okay, we were just catapulted out. Oof. Eeloo has higher gravity than I expected. Alright, so we have some equipment. Let's go ahead and throw this on here. And let me take a look. I want to see where I can put things. Looks like, because I actually have a lot of radiators that I've brought with me this time. So put this over here. Can I put that in my bag? Yes, indeed. I can actually carry a bunch. Huzzah. So let's do that. Let's do that. One more. One more. No. Okay. That's fine. So let's... Ooh, but I can't lift off. So let's see if we can't reach up. It's like in circular attach mode, I guess. There, something like that. All right. And now a couple more. All right, so we've got 4 radiators now attached to the far horizons. So let's go ahead and switch to it. Make sure this thing is still alive. I think it should be. Okay, looking good. Let's go ahead and extend the radiators. And watch them cook as they begin releasing heat into the ambient atmosphere by using liquid cooling to run liquid against the hot parts and then out to radiate out from these little panels. So yeah, these are pretty darn warm, but this thing has been pretty darn warm for a pretty darn long time. So what I think I might actually want to do while that flashes emergency red, I have some bigger panels on the warp skiff that I have stuffed in these. Oops, thunk. Please don't headbutt the. Okay, I was a little bit worried I was going to launch this thing in the air. I have a big one here that I can use, and I would love it if I could just put this on my back. No, you're not going to let me, are you? So we're going to save the game again. And I am just going to put this there. Don't blow up. Thank you. Now we're just going to move in between, and where's a good spot? Where can I put this that's not like right in the way? So many options, none of them good. Alright, I don't love this positioning, but I think it'll do. Alright, so like I said, I don't love this position, but it's good enough. And we definitely need the additional cooling, I think. So let's go ahead. I can just send you over here to just hang out for a second, and we'll switch back to the far horizons. Go ahead and extend our radiators. Ta-da! Alright, now they can start cooking. Alright, so in a little bit, this should have cooled down enough, hopefully, for these things to actually start operating again. Oh, look at that. We walked on the surface of Eeloo. Huzzah! Our first outpost on Eeloo. Docking maneuvers on Eeloo. I don't remember docking on Eeloo, but that's fine. I guess that's what the, Kerbal Attachment System does. Alright, these drills are now finally all reducing in temperature. All these radiators that I've added are rejecting the heat. We are maintaining load, so everything is looking pretty good as far as that's concerned. Let me just make sure. Carborundum, dig in, carborundum, and or surface harvester, I suppose, and surface harvester. And our core temperatures are reducing, which means we are getting higher thermal efficiency, and our load is increasing, and we will be able to get more ore so that this thing can start moving around on its own here pretty darn soon. Excellent. So the other thing that I would like to do while I'm here is I could actually just use Kerbal attachment pipes to ship carborundum directly over to our warp skiff. So we could steal some carborundum and go do some stuff with it, I guess. Bonk. Hold on a second. Don't smash yourself into that, please. But there's a couple more things that I would like to do first. All right, first things first is we get our scientists just ejected at alarming speeds, and then we are going to EVA report. Lay down and give the planet a hug just so it knows it's not alone out there, and it's not. We're gonna take a surface sample. We find some brown soil underneath the icy surface soil. And 500 science for that, that surface sample alone. And let's plant a flag. Horizons at warp speed. Oops, what did I do? Did I break it? Ta-da! Yes. Wonderful. So we have a flag which will give us a ton of experience here on Eeloo as well. So we will have some very high level Kerbals able to do some stuff. So while I'm here, I might as well go take a look at the science equipment that is on the far horizons. So I can actually go right up, which is why I have this thing, right over here, and then just yank, hello. How close do I have to be? Really close, I suppose. Okay, careful, please. Please be careful. Take all the data, quickly, before we fall down. And then we are going to fly up, restore. And we should have some goo canisters in here somewhere. Where are you, goo canisters? These things are flashing as if I don't have their data either. What did I do with my goo canisters? Alright, well, I thought I had goo canisters, but I can't seem to find them on here, so maybe they burned off or something. I have no idea. But we have a whole bunch of science. Take this data, huzzah. And we should now, oops, come on, do not fall. There's lots of fragile things here. And let's move over to drop this science in this pod right here. Store, and then get some EVA reports from space above. And store. Beautiful. So we have science. We can get carborundum, but we may need to wait a little while for that to be, for enough carborundum to actually be ready. We have all the science packed away in our warp ship, so we can send that back home a lot faster. Very nice. And that seems like a pretty good place to end this one. So if you enjoyed this episode, please share and subscribe, and we will be getting to a little bit more playing around with the warp ship next time.